All right. We're going to make some papercrete blocks this morning, and we're also going to go into how we make a wall out of them. But before we get started, we'll describe the mixer. We had this mixer made of the rear end of a vehicle and turned the drive shaft up and cut it off and attached inside. You want to show the inside? Lawnmower blade, which spins when the wheels move. So you drive around 5 miles an hour and it churns up the mix in there. And then when we're done, we can get it out of the mixer by taking the cap off. When we get started, we put in a newspaper. The mix I work with has a stack of papers up to the top of the tank. I don't know how much it weighs, but this is what works for me. And I've just been using newspapers because they're easier to measure and easier to stack, and I can get them for free down in the New Mexican office in the big bins right behind where they print the newspapers. So we'll get started. I'm going to start filling this up with water and spreading the newspapers around. That hose will probably jump out of there. So while that fills, I'll put this down to keep the hose in. I'm going to get my other ingredients ready. I put in two of these containers of pumice, which comes out to about 10 shovels. And I have this all ready, so when I come around with the mixer, I can just dump this in. It has to go in a certain order. I was using sand to begin with, but I switched to pumice for a couple of reasons. The sand would sink to the bottom of the mixer before the blades started turning, and the pumice floats on top. And also, I found that the pumice made a lighter block and a larger block because it has more volume. So I do that, and then I do 2 containers the same size with the cement mixer. Okay, what we have here is a mixture of Portland cement and fly ash from the power plant up in Farmington. There's a guy up there who takes the fly ash and he mixes it with Portland cement, and I think it's about 35% fly ash and 65% cement. But it solved a moral dilemma for me because I felt bad about using cement in the first place because it's so unkind to the environment. But I found I had to because the blocks made with soil didn't work for me. They weren't strong enough and they were too heavy and they took too long to dry. So what I'm doing is filling these 2 buckets, and this is the equivalent of 1 94-pound bag of the Portland cement. So this will be all ready to go when I come around with the mixer. All right. That's that. The water should be just about full, and then we can take a look at how it mixes when we go around pulling it. Okay, we've got the mixer full of water and paper, and he's going to pull away and we'll watch how it churns in there. It's pretty fascinating. At just 5 miles an hour, that blade turns and chops that paper right up. You don't even have to really spread the paper around in there. It absorbs the water and the blade just pulls it. So there we go. Take a long shot here so you can see how it's working. And then I'm going to have him stop and I'll hop in. We'll go around the block just once and then we'll come back and add the other ingredients. Okay, we've mulched up the paper and I've dumped in those 2 buckets of pumice. And now I'm going to just have him drive forward and watch the pumice go in. Just because it's such a... You want to go ahead and I'll...
Want to put the cement in on it too?
No, I do that after this.
We're going to mix it one more time.
Yeah. We'll take the short way this time. We figure the way we just went to mulch up the paper was about half a mile. And even shorter than that works on the paper. But here goes the pumice mixing in. See, it floats, so that's such an advantage over that sand. The sand just sank to the bottom, and then when I dumped the mix out, had a bunch of sand in the bottom. Okay, I'm going to hop in again. We're going to take just a shorter one this time. Doesn't take as much time for the pumice. Then we'll go back and put the cement, and we'll be ready to pour. Oh, I'm adding the cement. For me, this is hard because it's heavy. But it floats at first on top of the mix because the mix is thickened up now with the pulped up paper and the pumice in there. So this will float on the top till the blade pulls it down. And we're going to try just doing the short route with this too. Try to conserve on the fuel in the truck. Right now we're running diesel, which is pretty good, but as soon as we get our act together, we'll be running it on vegetable oil. And then we won't have to worry about that anymore.
Cool.
So let's go. Mixer right over the form and unhooked the tongue from the hitch because that's how I control the flow, is by lifting that tongue up and down. So once we take off the cap, all the stuff pours out and we're having a disaster. We cleaned up our mess and now we're ready to continue. This is a wetter mix than I've been doing in the past, but it works better for me. Just move that forward a bit and you can actually balance it right on the end. But anyway, that's the thing. Let me see. No, it's still coming out. A little bit left in there. You can see the water comes out right away, and we only have to wait about 20 minutes before we can take this form off and move it forward, which gives us time to make one more batch of mix. So in a day's time, working alone, I can make about 7 batches of mix. So anyway, we'll leave that. These are some I did last week. I cut them after they're firmed up a bit, and these are actually ready to be picked up, but I left them here as a stop for the end of the form. Then I just pull the form forward and do the next batch.